Yes, I'm Jay Wilkinson, and I've been a judge on the Federal Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit since 1984. President Reagan appointed me, and I think more importantly, I'm a father of two children, and just had my first grandchild not so long ago. Yeah, well, President Reagan had I'm not sure whether this still obtains, but President Reagan had a wonderful habit of calling every single judge he appointed before he submitted their nomination. So we all got, this is Ronald Reagan on the phone, and you sort of stammered. But no, he was that way, and I dealt more with during the appointment process with the folks at the head of in the White House counsel's office and at the Department of Justice. And it was the White House counsel's office and the Department of Justice that would work to shepherd the appointment through. Before going on the bench, you need to realize that you have to leave all your former lives behind. It's a little bit like just entering a cloister, but you have to leave party politics completely behind. Can't have any involvement in that. You can't raise money for anything. You even have to be circumspect in your associations if people could potentially have litigation or do have litigation before you. You have to be careful. So it's a different life, and I've thought about it, at a young age. Do I want to leave all this behind and maybe because there's still a lot of things I wanted to actively involve myself in and be influenced, and we're going to take on the role of a judge. You sort of have to wait for things to come to you, And but I said, no, this is something I really, really want to do for some of the reasons we've touched on, and I've had absolutely no regrets. This job I presently have is probably the only thing I would have given up law teaching for, because I love my students so much and have kept up with many of them through the years. But I find that my law clerks fortunately give me a chance to indulge my teaching instincts, and so I don't feel like I'm leaving that completely behind. But I do miss the classroom a little bit, but this is, in my view, one of the best jobs in the world, because of it's intellectually fascinating and challenging, and you have a new question every day. The law produces infinite novelty, but apart from just the fascination I have with trying to unravel a very complicated legal problem, the main thing is it's a chance to respect people and to try to serve this a great country of ours and the wonderful values represented by the federal judiciary, and to make the law really, to have it become a source of stability in our national life, and to strike a proper balance between order and liberty, and being involved in those kinds of questions and feeling that you're playing a role in them, that's a big deal for me. Yeah, well, I thought at the time it was rocky because we had there were filibusters and cloture votes and there were numerous hearings, and I didn't think of myself as terribly controversial, but I understand why, because they were going to give a lifetime appointment to somebody in their 30s. I would have looked pretty closely at that too. So I respect them for doing that. It's just I think that, serving in the Justice Department under President Reagan, there were some people that agreed with what he was doing, and there were some people that didn't agree, and they were going to take a confirmation proceeding and make clear what their disagreements were. And then there were other folks that thought, well, I should have had a much longer experience and much more professional experience, and particularly in private practice. Those were legitimate concerns. I mean, I could understand them. But the point is, if your age, your chronological age begins with the digit 3, and you're going to be on the bench for 35, 40 years or more, you should be looked at. It's not going to be as smooth sailing as it is for someone who's 60 and facing confirmation. That's just the facts. And so there was a good bit of debate. It was constructive, and I really, as I say, you leave politics completely behind when you go on the bench, but you also have a feeling of gratitude for people like certainly President Reagan and Senate Majority Leader Howard Baker and the Senate Judiciary Chairman Strom Thurmond, and my home state senators of Paul Tribble and John Warner. You appreciate what they did for you. It's the way you show that respect is just by doing a good job, by being independent, by being dedicated, by giving every case the best you can. I think that's what they would want, was that you just go do what you think is correct under the law and just do a good job. Well, your approach is, you're probably better off saying less rather than more. You can only get yourself in trouble by going on at too great length. And so when I was at the committee hearings and things, I tried not to ramble on because I try to be responsive, but I think anybody who's up for Senate confirmation should realize that it's really the senator's day, and it's their forum, and they have a perfect right to use their time as they see fit. And one of the things they're going to do is voice their concerns over issues of importance to their constituents. So I just told myself, never interrupt, keep my answer short, and when the senators talk, to be respectful of what they're saying, no matter what point of view they were expressing. You can't roll your eyes or just go like that. You've got to be genuinely respectful of what they say, just as I would expect litigants to be genuinely respectful of what those on the bench says. We don't want a lot of adverse body language, and that's what I tried to avoid.